Hello and welcome back for another day, another chapter in the greatest story ever told and the greatest show we've ever seen. It's another day with me, GME, looking at GME, Gamestop and AMC. Thank you very much for everybody who joins me. We're going to go through another day with me, near the top of the hour, always on the money, not being funny. Let's look at price action and see, where did you come from? Where did you go? What are you up to? Price action, yo. First off, a couple of little details. I'll start the timer. There it goes. It has begun. I'll change the settings and welcome the 34 people who are already here and the 27 likes. Wow, that's fantastic. Thanks so much. Subscribers, please, to remind people to subscribe. Remind you to hit the like button. You know, some sort of visual cue would be nifty so that I didn't have to keep repeating it, because people do tend to need a little reminder. Maybe that is it. Also, people do need to reminders of how it's only possible to do this channel with the support of such great audience members who do their shopping at Unreasonable Shop, where you can purchase anything you like. There's even stickers on there from as little as £9.52. Quite a lot for a sticker. So that now should be, or at least on its way to being, pinned at the top of chat. And you too can shop with the most well-dressed and most lucrative of channel members by visiting unreasonable.shop. You don't even need www. I made it that easy for you. And in return, you can expect to see that reflected in the prices. So visit it if you like, or don't. Actually, don't. It's far too expensive. Don't visit it unless you've already made loads of money at something somewhere and you still don't know what to do with it. Then in which case, thanks for the magic beans. Also, thank you to everybody. Frostcrest, Owen, HJH today, the biggest ghost and the first of all, Dan Ernst, and L4G Custom Fabrications. Today is the anniversary of the day you first became a member, and my fucking God, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also GME and AMC technical analysis, plus chat requests, so you can just let me know what you want to look at. I'll try and get through as many as I possibly can before I get exhausted. So let me know in advance what it is you want me to see, and then I'll go through them. I've already got one written down. I was looking for another one that somebody asked me to look at. It seemed like a dead nice chap too, but I can't find his message. Texas Tanker, Super Chat $9.99. Thanks very much. Give the jar a wee nudge. Wake it up. As you'll see, there's Stunt Puppet in the background, slightly bokeh'd. Oh, D. How's it going, D? Generous chap you. Thank you very much. Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci, Gucci, Gucci gang. Gucci gang. That reminds me of a song. Whether, well, seller, GME, or hold, I need advice. Hold. Hold. That's the quick answer, mate. I'll go into it more in a minute. Also, you'll have obviously your own considerations along that line. The Ghost of Jiu-Jitsu, man. There's another legend ghost. What TIH ickle mean? Thickle. What thickle mean? Have I written something wrong? Thickle. Ha ha ha. Thickle. TH. Ickle. Is that what it actually says? Nah, it says technical. You lunatic. You're a lunatic. Tradespotting. Swap your promoting shirt. You want me to put on my promoting shirt? I should be putting on a different shirt. Is that right, H? That's an outstanding top, says somebody else. They disagree. Well, H, you need to do something along these lines that fits on unreasonable.shop, obviously, so that everybody else can wear this. As I was saying, I wish I had some sort of visual cue to remind you of those things that most help the channel so that you could do it without putting in any effort. Unlike H, who puts in great effort to support the channel, and herself is to agree supported by the generous people on to shop at unreasonable.shop. So thank you very much for all that goodness that you put into the world there, other than me taking the piss out of things, which I usually can't stop myself from doing. Sarah, I want to be that rich. I'm paying for the whole bar's night out. Lee James, that wasn't Sarah, that was Lee saying that to James. Well, Lee, the way it works at the bank is if you made the least amount of money that week, then you have to pay for everybody's drinks because you had the least amount. It's crazy, isn't it? It's all very different mentality there. Very different from YouTube, that's for sure. Hey, mate. Ickle, everybody. I'm definitely written it wrong. Somebody is saying it there. Is it somewhere else I've written to ickle? Where is it? What is like? Nah, fuck you guys. I know what you're like. Fuck this shit. Please hit the like and see the description for links. GME AMC technical analysis. That's right, unless I've got some Gestalt brain problem. And chat requests. Please hit link and see the description for links. What's the problem? Something wrong with you guys, by the way. Kelly, I missed you, bud. Kitty. I'm not a cat, it's here. Hi, there you are. We missed you. I'm not a cat. Many of us did. Hey, there's a donation there. It's Axta Palank. Axta Palapaki. Axta Palapaki, can you give me 1 minute on ZBT? It's crap, but my boy is on the C-suite and I want to make him feel bad. Oh, yeah, man, I'll give you more than a minute. Of course I will. I'll give you as long as it takes to give you my opinion on it, my friend. So far we've got MTTR, so I'm going to look at that. And this was ZBT for IX Dapa Kitty. I wrote that phonetically to help me in future. IX Dapa. I didn't actually write it so I could read it all. There. And sure, no problem. Sal, $10. Thanks so much. Hey, Mr. Fancy Shirt. Thanks, Sal. Chris and I were on Discord discussing whether GME's daily candle is an inverted cross or an inverted hammer for today. Thoughts, please. Well, okay. GME, when we're looking at GME daily candle, right? A daily candle is a cross. AMC, any questions on the AMC chart when I go into that too? Thanks, that was Sal who wrote that. That was Sal and Chris. Thanks very much for that generous donation, Sal. Those magical beans. Well, am I on the... It's in the background there. That's the daily chart. Remind me to start on that, Jimmy. And you want to know if it's an inverted hammer. Hammer time. Right. Or a cross. When you say a cross, do you mean like a doji? Daily candle, is it hammer? Khors / doji. And then you want to know if it's a cross. Whoa, 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 whoa. Bump. Right, yeah, so I've got that down. GME daily candles. We want to talk about that? Yeah, no problem. Thanks, that's a great question, Sal. Today's one, it's your cut backwards, lol. What's my cut backwards? What are you talking about? Imagine, right, this is what I've always believed, right? Why is there, what is that? Toothpaste. Toothpaste follows me around. Is it, or is it muffin? Oh, there's a debate on my head at the minute. So when I'm talking to somebody, what I like is for them, if I'm trying to go to the effort of like delivering a message, right? Rocky is very much somebody who'll deliver like this things with the Socrates method. That is to say, he'll ask you the question, and through attempting to answer it, you'll understand where your logic could be different, and what you'd be able to judge for yourself what was more important, and then there, so you'll remember the lesson, right? That's very much the way Rocky would treat. Now I've forgotten what I was going to say on about how I do things, but it's an element of that. But I'd like it to be kind of obvious, right? Because people say it's out of their reach and whatnot. So what I want is to make it kind of obvious, but at the same time as making some things obvious, I'd like it to be so that you could, there was a tiny amount of work you had to do, just that tiny bit of work. And that would make it easier for you to remember, I think, right? Not just at that moment where you got that prompt, but like forever then when you see, say, for example, some then following action that then reminds you of the initial Pavlovian thought. Like, so if you ever saw those series of events again, even with that, without that initial Gestalt image, you still somehow be compelled to follow through, right? Wow, amazing. So good. This is amazing. Right, anyway, so there's that question. What else? The caller is definitely annoying, but simultaneously soothing if he's anything like me, Lamau. Well, I suppose that judgment is better made by yourself, Katie Babes. I wear fishnets all year, live, style over function. Yeah, me too, H. Tradespotting, if the like on your cup is backwards, does that mean your face is backwards too? What do you really look like? Let's find out. Now the like on my cup isn't backwards. But I think the particular mystery you allude to deepens. My brother, can you please do quick look at the chart for a BIG holding 1,000 AMC and 500 GME strong. This is the way Jeepers McBob's crisp. That's a lot. You know, it's cool. You know, I like that swagger, but you don't have to tell anybody what you've got, right? Just make it like nobody else's fucking business. Thanks very much for the 699. Cheers. And you look at that. What was that? BBIG. What was the question exactly? I can't remember. Just look at it. Yeah, no problem. That was so nice. That tea was so nice. Right, I think we've had enough of that for now, haven't we? So we've got 3 suggestions plus a question. Or is it 2? And then I had written down, if no one asked for anything, I'd look at DIA USDT, RSR USDT, COTI, COTI, and then probably have a look at Dixie. Maybe have a look at GBP USDT. So I'll see what I get through. If anybody wants anything else, there's nothing better than a bowl of cornflakes for supper. True, other than porridge, right? And some of us don't have access to cornflakes, you know. Shane, I don't know where you're from. Hollywood, freaking... Who are you anyway, really, Shane? Are you Elon Musk or something? You know, cornflakes. Since the incident, there's hardly been any cornflakes to go around. We's all over here. Porridge, government tells us that we can't even get our porridge over the next wee while because there's not enough porridge truck delivery drivers. So we're having to ration our porridge out. And I thought it was bad last month when we were on the sawdust soup. Can you imagine what it's going to be like over winter? And that. Russia got us over a barrel, because there's Norwegians and whatnot. They've decided what they'll do is they'll put the maintenance work in for their facilities over the winter time and that, eh? What's going on? You know, somebody would say to you, it seems as though the Russian foreign policy is very effective at undermining cohesion in the EU, and more so, like a further extension of that is what they managed to, how Britain's interests seemed somehow to democratically align with Russia's with regards to Brexit, and then the further exploitation of that now gap in that relationship by Russia is amazing. And you would probably look into that recent reveal by the Panama Papers and see how that shows you that the vast, vast majority of donors to the Conservative Party in the UK, they're in charge, right? They've been in charge for 10 years plus, right? The Conservative Party, that's funded by Russian oligarchs. That's fucked up, isn't it? That's just fucked up. You know, and what with it being like an adversarial parliamentary democracy, which means that if you come second, you've got no say. It means to an extent, right? It means to an extent. It's true to say that if you live in Britain, you could potentially have less democratic control over your government than Vladimir Putin has over your government. That's fucked up, isn't it? That's a fact, right? That's a fact. And I'll argue with somebody if they want to tell me how it isn't, because I've been fucking pissed off about this now. I'm kind of pissed off about this. I think somebody arguing with me about it may attract some attention to it. I think it's a disgrace. Nah, you think it's bad in America? The fucking Russians own, and that's just the money, right? That's just the money. Fucking joke, by the way. What else are we looking at here? That's it. I can't see nothing else in the request function side of things. Hell, a coincidence. That is fucked up, isn't it, Chris? It's totally fucked up. Crazy coincidence. Remember the Russians let off a nerve agent in the middle of Salisbury, and they didn't just get away to do that. They murdered people, Murdered people. Did it not nearly, or did it nearly, it definitely ended the career of a policeman. Fucked up, man. Thanks very much. It's a nice shirt. Cheers, Barrett. Right, and you get to watch live today. Certainly do. We certainly do. Yay. Braid and juice. Aye, nice. VP is a puppet bot tool. Just follow the fake feet cache. True facts. This is the facts. It's just the facts. It's just fucked up facts. Like, you might not know. Fucked up shit. Pick a partner. Whoop, we're back to round two. Boris certainly did a good job there. Right, charts. That's what we're on. Daily time frame. GME. We'll start with it. And Sal. Audie, Super Chat 684. Shoo, Jamie, GME is feeling radioactive. Radioactive. Aye, there's a question too about the radioactive. Things about the future of energy, considering all this information that's coming out, and like, you think that the stuff you know is bad. Thank you very much, Audie. It's appreciated. I'll put those magic beans to good use, building these fantastic beanstalks. Speaking of beanstalks, this looks a little beanstalk, doesn't it? But it's stalled at this level of horizontal support on this daily time frame. You can see the price didn't move much today. Where did you come from? Where did you go? What have you been up to? Price action. The low for today was 182.60. The high was 192.20. And our closing price was 183.83. So I know I just read out a series of numbers, but you also have on the chart here a representation of that with the very tight body, right? It's a candle body. And then you have the wick. That's the price action on either side of it, right? So the wick is where it went to, and the body is where it opened and closed. So the lower level here and being where it opened, and the top level being where it closed, right? Because it was a positive day. It was a green candle price action. That's not... Oops. 192. Well, is it? Was it a green day? My charts tell me it was a green day because it's a green candle. Anyway, right, so here we are looking at this, and where the question isn't really is it green or not, because it could be purple or red or, all sorts of different colors. And more is of interest is the shape of it, the nature of the wick determined by its size relative to the body, where it comes in relation to the previous candles. I could call another word for that is the trend, and what side of that trend it's on, and how strong that trend itself is. And that's why you'd look at this candle, right? Not the color of it, though that would be interesting. It's now irrelevant when your body is so very, very small, whether it was red, green, purple, or all those different colors together, right? And so you're looking at this, and Sal, who's sponsored Buddy, who's like an amazing member of the channels and an absolutely brilliant person. It's great to have someone like her around. Asks, is it what was it? Cross, which I'm going to guess is like you're saying the doji, or whether you are or not, right? For the purposes of talking about it, or was it what was the other one? An inverted hammer. Right, so the way I'd answer that best is by saying, well, what is a hammer, right? There's a hammer is when there's a tiny little bit of, draw it, right? There's ignore these lines. There's a body, right? It's tiny body. Imagine that's a square, right? This is a square. Don't imagine it is. That's a square, right? This is a square. Shut up, naysayers. Here's a square, and this is a body, and it looks quite large. You're like, but that's bigger than another body, right? But within that, there's on that day there was also a wick, right? And the wick went like this. That'd be huge, right? That's not a hammer. A hammer is when there's only a little bit of a wick, right, above the candle, and there's loads of wick below the candle. Right, and that's a hammer, right? Because you pick it up here, right, with your hand. Nope, you don't pick it up there. Whoops, in my daisies. Well, you can if you want, right? If you're passing it to somebody, that's a safe way to pass a hammer to somebody, right? But you're holding the hammer here at the bottom of the hammer, right? And the way it works is it tends to go like yoink and flip up, and you take the measured move from here and you drag that up and you put it up here and you say that's where it's going to. Chris. Dude, today my dad asked me about investing in crypto. For fuck's sake, It's time to get out. Also got offered a job as a principal engineer. Guess what I said to? I said no to both. Nice one, Chris. Principal engineer? Do they mean head of engineering, CEO, CTO, chairman of the board? And here's 51% of the company. In which case, yeah, go for it. Good work, Chris. Yeah, interesting news. Yeah, when your parents ask it, it's either that or the FOMO's about to start, and you start looking for like crazy blow off tops is what might come next. Then cheers, mate. Cheers. What? Cheers. You're totally welcome. Who are you saying cheers to? Me? What did I do, Daniel? Thanks. Good on you, Chris. Thanks very much. That's you $20. Fucking turn around a job and give me $20. Chris, the universe. I hope the universe sends you good things. Yo. Yep, cyber shit. Yo, cyber shit, bro. What was I talking about? This hammer dildo, right? Usually, the candlestick, pardon me, usually goes the same distance to the length of this, the handle on it, right? Which should be like, well, we'll look at that in a second. But the other thing about hammers is they come in, they're reversal candlesticks, right? They're reversal patterns within the candlestick land. That the ancient Japanese land of candlesticks, where shit really seemed maybe was made of candlesticks. I don't know, ancient civilizations and whatnot, right? And shit was made of candlesticks, and so they were really good at using them. And that's not the camera; it's over there. And these amazing Japanese people, they came up with these things called reversal patterns within it, and they say that a hammer is one of them. And it's a bullish reversal pattern, right? A hammer's a bullish reversal pattern, so it come in. No, it's a negative pattern, right? It's a negative pattern, pardon me. And it would come in at the top of a trend and smack you down, right? That would be what would normally happen with a hammer. It'd smack you down at the top of a trend. At least this is what I think I'm right. Okay, I may go back and revise this, but at least this is what I remember it to be, right? And so then what you'd be saying on the bottom side of a trend, you'd be looking for that to come in at, right? A hammer hit you up. Would it be a hammer hit you up on the bottom side? And then, or on the other side, the inverted one. Fucking confusing myself now. Right, no. A hammer, right? Let's say this hammer comes in at the top of the trend, right? But you're saying, let's say it comes in here, right? Now let's talk about what it is. Yes. Right. Okay, back to the beginning, right? This is hammer dildo, right? It's a candlestick looks like this. It's got a hammer at the top. It's got a stick on the bottom, right? Like normal hammers. When you're passing a hammer, somebody do it with a safe handle to them, right? Same with scissors. And then looking at it, and what's happened is this: a hammer. Well, it doesn't have enough of a body to immediately start saying it's a hammer. Right, it doesn't, right, which leads you to ask other questions. Also, it's at this part of the trend, so what you would likely see in a hammer is a little bit above and loads below, which is why you're asking yourself, is it an inverted hammer? And when you're asking yourself, is it an inverted hammer, well, you'd expect to find that then as a reversal pattern, an inverted hammer, I think, right, you'd expect to find that on the bottom of a trend. It isn't there, it's on the top of the trend. Anyway, at this point, and why I'm confused is, because at this part of a trend, first off, it's not a hammer because of the size of the body compared to and relative to the wick on either side, whether it's the top or the bottom, which is important for whether it's a hammer or inverted hammer. But also because it's a shooting star, right? That's what comes in here, and that's a doji. So is a hammer candle, right? They're both like a type of doji candle. It's just with a different inflection. So when you ask, is it this or a cross? I suppose you'd say it's both an inverted hammer and it's a cross, should that be what you meant, a doji. And in those sense, both of you and Chris are right. But also you're both wrong because it's neither. It's a shooting star. It comes at the end of a top trend, right? So you'd see it at the top of a trend. It's a bearish reversal candlestick. And this is what this is on the daily time frame. Whether it works out or not depends on the horizontal level that you find itself at, the horizontals that those wicks tested, and then the momentum on the trend when it did both those two things. Also, where price action is relative to the horizontals around you and when you most recently tested them and how strong those tests are. And then the trend as represented by price action over time, which we use to the moving averages to measure here. The simple moving average 50, 200, exponential 8 or 18, and then 55, which is often not even on charts. So it's those things in that order after you figure out where the candlestick and what it says. And it in and of itself alone isn't sophisticated really. Not to say that it needs to be, simple is usually best, but there's a lot of questions from a technical perspective that aren't answered by it alone. So you'd definitely be best doing other things in there at the same time and building that into the TA. So that's Sal's question, right? It's a shooting stars, the answer. And like where cards where a hammer and inverted hammer would come in might be, as I said, or I might be confused, but the truth is it's a shooting star anyway. It's coming in as you would expect at the top of a trend, putting in a big move to the top side, a tiny little one on the bottom, a retrace on that positive move, followed by a tiny test lower, but not a significant one necessarily, because you came in at close to finish more or less where you started. And in reflection, you'd say psychologically that meant the market tested higher, it didn't like it. It tested only a tiny bit lower. That doesn't represent any sort of a test. And yesterday, then at the close of the day, looking back retrospectively, you'd say, yesterday we tested higher and failed. And maybe we were lucky to even get back where we opened. Let's see what happens tomorrow. And that is hesitancy, right? And if you hesitate, you die, right? You die because the charts, they're absolutely fucking desperate to move somewhere because everybody's absolutely fucking desperate to do shit and absolutely nobody has any clue what's going on. So there's shitloads of pressure on price action to move all the time in some direction. So unless, of course, everybody decides to check out, right? Which hasn't happened anytime recently and isn't likely to happen either. So as we can see, volatility has increased. And that recently volatility has increased. All of these candle bodies are like increasingly large. If these three are not, they're relative to each other quite equal and all surprisingly bigger than what was happening before, right? These are all very small doji candles, all of a different nature, all at the bottom side of a trend. These ones had what looks like similar situation here, right? 1, 2, 3 doji tests all coming in their wicks at the same horizontal level. For what apes who can't always watch live, we appreciate and 3x you and know and love you, Jamie. Thank you for everything, even if we aren't always here to say it. I hope you feel the love. From Brendan again. Thanks very much, Brendan Juice, Mr. Juice. The juices. The juices. The deuces. Deuces. I don't know, there's I'm trying to come up with some phrase there. I'm failing miserably. Thanks. Thanks to you, Brendan. Thanks very much to everybody who isn't able to make it live but still tunes in or catches the videos when they can. It's really, really appreciated. Thanks. And if you're new and just stopping by, I really appreciate you too. Thanks. Rest those weary YouTube feet and watch a while. Thanks. If that shirt was a dress, I would wear it. Maybe it'll help you out with that. If you could only trade 2 times a day, twice a week, which day would you choose? Friday morning. I mean, this is like, can I choose at the start of each week? Because that would be great. And then likely it'd always be Friday. And then sometimes it would be Monday. And like, I mean, am I allowed to trade like Friday morning and Friday evening? Like, can I do, and that, so that, I mean, like, I would be a combination, I don't know, how specific do you want me to be here? That's like, yeah, we're quite specific, weren't you? I'm trying to get away with it. Yeah, it would be like Monday morning, Friday morning. If you give me an extra day, or I could use like, do it really fast and get extra minutes, I'd use them Friday evening. And then I'd want to make that decision at the start of every week. Thanks. Really appreciate the explanation. Love learning this stuff. Thanks. You're freaking welcome. Bodie Bear. Bodie Bear. You're very, very welcome. Sorry if I've missed anything. So we were talking about this shooting star. Does it mean there's a trend reversal coming in? Well, that is about a question of other things, right? At that point, you're like, this is a heads up. There may be a trend reversal coming in. You look back and you say, well, yes, what have we done here then within this trend? We're on the daily time frame. We'll stay here and look at price action and say, well, let's take a look back period of 2 weeks. Today is 14th of October, so we'll go back to the end of September. That was here. And we can say at this period of time, we were at the end, we were in a downtrend, and nothing had happened since then. Boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. But let's do this a little bit differently today, shall we? So here we are, back in time, and it's the end of September. Whoa, what a great month it was. And I had that birthday stream, and that was fucking quality, and love you guys. Thanks very much for that. Anyway, so here we are. September's about to end, and we've clearly put in this lower high and have been in what is a continued downtrend below this previous move here. And we're speculating about whether or not price will reach this D point. Should it get there, right, this Fibonacci will be active, and we'll be looking for price action to return above the 236, and that is at 177, and we're just below it now. And what happens between here and then, whenever that is, will have to constitute some sort of trend reversal should we drop any lower, right? Because that'll be a continuation of this previous trend, and we'll be looking for price action to come back where we are. So if that all happens, that'll constitute some sort of potential reversal, which we'll be able to confirm may be in place as and when price action then gets above the 236, which will become valid should we hit the D point. And that price is $177.42. And at that point, we'll be saying, can we now say this area is a low, right? Because before then you can't say there's even been a significant retracement. But at that point you can say to a point there's a robust, reliable and tradable technical consideration. And that's the 236 retracement that suggests that potentially prices are moving one way rather than the other that they were previously, right? So that's what we'll be looking for. We're also going to say, look at these candlesticks that come in, and do they represent any sort of trend reversal? We'll look at our oscillators. I'll turn off all the pictures. We'll look at our candlesticks, we'll look at our oscillators, and we'll see if they're putting in any form of reversal at any sort of an area that might be relevant to speaking to the overall trend or the horizontals that we see on price action at that time. And we'll give it 3 seconds for every daily candle and pause it should it be anything interesting happening. We'll see what it tests horizontally and what it looks like in terms of reversals, right? So go. Said go. Are you waiting for something in particular? There it is. So this first one is immediately a doji. It's equally wick either side of it. Potentially that means that the trend is going to reverse. You look here, you can see we're still below the 50 period moving average, of course. We've not got anywhere near the 200 period moving average. So there hasn't been a trend check that's that severe. As a result of this move itself, it's clearly higher than this previous zone of price action. And when we tried to drop back into it, our first experience of it was perhaps we shouldn't be this low, which then went higher and said, well, there's nothing to say we should not be this low. We certainly don't have anything to say we should recover quite yet. So there became this question mark with regard to continuation of this previous trend. Now we're on to the next day, which somehow we turned into 3 seconds. And that was a negative candle in that it closed lower than it opened, yet both of those days were higher than the previous one. There isn't enough of a gap here to say, despite there being enough of one here, even though there's a wick, to say that this candle then retroactively we could term it as an abandoned baby, which itself would add to the nature of it and our weight as considering it as a reversal pattern. Though we can say in the context of this trend, despite the fact that we tested that 50, having tested this low, we've tested one area. It is itself putting in a lower low and defining this area as interesting as a horizontal. So we drop that line on and say, no, I can't because I turned my drawings off. We'd say there's a horizontal area here of interest in around 166.66. And do we test that low again? Seeing as we've put in a reaction to previously being at this zone failed and then not shown anything with any level of conviction since, right? And so do we test lower again? That's the question tomorrow. 1, 2, 3. Come on, hurry up, seconds. And now you're lower, but you're not put any significant test in lower. Low itself, you'd say these candles here now with the lower body closed than this one, continuation seems to be on the menu. It doesn't look like there was any successful reversal. We haven't broken your previous horizontal on the wick. You were already below your important horizontal on the body close, and looking left, you're in no man's land with the previous trend was in this zone. There was nothing going on. Below it, there was a reaction. Above it, it was quite violent, but here there was nothing. So you're like, well, this is probably going to continue. And the 200 period moving average becomes the question. Looking to the top side, it doesn't really seem to be. And you look over here and you say, well, that was a lower high than here. This previous high, we can see it was potentially divergent. RSI is continuing down. It has, though, reached a level where if it turned around, you could say that in this downtrend, in its overall context, hadn't yet turned bearish, because the relative strength of the whole move itself, a reaction to a previous trend and it being a positive one, that whole move, the nature of it as represented by its relative strength, never became bearish. It dropped lower. It went through important areas such as the bullish control zone when it was very bullish, right? Price action very bullish, despite it being potentially divergent. We tested that theory by coming back. This is a daily time frame. Traditionally, you test either a 786, a 618, a 236 at the very least, right? But it'd be a 618 much more likely, or a 200 period moving average. On that time frame, you saw that divergence. This one is potentially not divergence. Potentially is. If it is, it's class B. Maybe you test one of those less extreme areas. This is technical analysis, right? This is as the days go on. Does our trend change? Well, we've never turned bearish, and we're just putting in our first test of that question. And we have previously already, 2 days ago now, asked ourselves that question again. And the 50 period moving average, that thing that held us down, it itself doesn't have a negative slope. There's nothing bearish about it. It has previously been higher. But the 200 period, which speaks to the long-term trend, has a positive slope on it, a positive slant. We have a positive splay between the two. And this more important one is a juggernaut. It's consistent. It's going on, and it's going to just keep going on and on and on. And so you're thinking, we're not even testing it yet, right? So fuck this downtrend, right? I'm getting out of these sort of trades. If you're short, if you're going long, you're like opportunity screaming at you. You're looking horizontally left, and you're saying, if I get in at 165, they've already defined that as support recently. We've said it was a breakout zone previously. Looks like there is a trend reversal on the cards. It's at least a tradable move, because if it works out this way, the most recent extreme that it would need to test if this downtrend fails, because it's putting in a higher low at the minute, would be to the top side, right? That's the next test. And the distance is miles away. So the chiclet on your biscuit is way big. Whereas if you're like here, you're like, wow, it looks fucked, right? Where are you going to? This next level here, the 200 period moving average, is a couple of pennies away, right? You're not trading that. Your risk is all the fucking way up here, right? You're not, you can't trade that. You're a fucking idiot, right? So you're thinking this trend might be over, right? There's fuck all left on this, right? And how long does it take everybody else to realize that's in this trade that there's fuck all on it? Them who, not being like you, but look at this with an eagle's view, they're emotionally invested and like whatever and care loads and that. And you're like, nah, I watch Tradespotting, everything's sound, mate. I'll just check that later. Everything's probably totally sound. And you're like, yeah, nah, there's nothing to the downside on this, right? We already went there once. Those people got told to fuck off. Next time it gets there, that's opportunity, right? That's the starting point of opportunity. It's daily time frame. You've asked those questions. We're going on the question like, what's happening in this previous trend in order to define what might come next on what we said earlier was the shooting star. So we'll go through the time frames. 3 seconds later, come in. You got that buy. That was a fantastic opportunity. Congratulations. I got it too. No joke, real life, got it. There you're testing your 8 period moving average. Trend has changed on the tiny time frame. You're going up. Tested the 50 again. Reaction, nothing compared to your previous move. On we go. Test the 55 exponential. You're out on this time frame on the daily, resting on the 50 period moving average. What is really being tested here Is it whether this trend goes on itself, not all crazy dramatic compared to over here itself, which had doji candles, which then continued afterwards, and we looked at that at the time, and we saw one here as well, right? This is one we saw, but there was one before it, and there's a big continuation on that move before things really turned around. What are we testing here? Is it whether we are overextended, right? Or is it whether we're actually testing this 50 period moving average on the daily time frame, which GME tells you is important? What's the test? Because it depends what you're testing if you want to figure out what the result means. And if the result is like, yeah, you tested this trend, it's overextended and it's time to go short again and you're looking for a move to the downside, that's one thing. If you're saying, no, what we tested was this 50 period moving average, do we stay above it now? Because that was a really strong move. And the answer is you passed that test. You passed it. So now if price action goes down, it's not going to go that far. You've passed that previous test. You belong above that 50 period. Let's see if you get an open above it, right? That was an open and a close. Let's see if you get an open, right? This was the open close, right? Open close. What happens next? It's a doji. It's a shooting star. It speaks to a test lower. But we passed the test. Parag Patel, firstly, finally able to watch you live instead of after hours replay. Had to miss out this week due to work. Hope you and Rocky are doing well. Oh, thanks so much. Nice message. I'll pass that on. $10, really generous. Thank you very much for Dematic Beans and being so generous, and I will pass that on. Thanks, buddy. Generous, buddy. Good to see you live. So, right, so this is not the end of the world sort of a test, but yes, you do ask yourself about a retrace, in which case there's probably not going to be all that people desperate to jump in and buy it, other than those people who were waiting for long-term trades and like, cool, I got my good signal, I'll take anything from here down as an opportunity. And those people who are pushing it down might be thinking, well, perhaps there's some opportunity for me to close my short slightly lower and get like out of a less of a bad position, which from since here has all been completely fucked, eh? So they'll be hoping that that happens. Here's your 8-period moving average. It's at $179. There's a low that you could come in, test, having put in a doji here. Does that speak to a continuation of this other trend? Well, not necessarily. Let's go back to now doing the traditional TA that we, well, I say traditional, but it's like the way I would teach it to people. And do right here, right? So you've got this overall formation of price action, that downtrend we talked about. It puts in this bullish accumulation pattern, this wedge. In here you have a low. It's higher than your previous low. That's called an accumulation low. You can see on your RSI, you never touched that bearish control zone. You can't because it's so messy, but it's talking about something else. I'll get onto in a second. Your MACD has had a positive cross, and you've got a DI positive is above the DI minus, and your ADX is potentially turning and representing some strength, may come into this trend. It's a good place to start from. If it continues on down as price action goes up, great. We have put in a doji of some nature here, so a bit of flux as we've just crossed over another test between the DI positive and the DI minus, and a test of this 8-period moving average and this horizontal looking left. Wouldn't be all that crazy. Go a little bit further, and you come down here to this 236, the 177 spot 42. At that point, you're testing whether or not this trend to the top side is real, or whether it was a reaction to reaching this horizontal low, but not a reversal of the previous trend. And that question will be answered at this 236. At that point, you can no longer say that this retracement is continuing and that likely this previous low is tested again, or at that point the 200-period moving average will be there and a new test comes in, or you look to a previous horizontal, one of these ones, or this historic one, which is relevant on even up to the weekly time frame at 151. Now, could you get there? Of course you could, right? There's shitloads of fuckery. Anything can happen at any time. Turns out we learned this year that they can turn off the buttons, so anything can happen, right? And anything can happen, right? You could even, through your own greed and the own inevitable reaction to nature, you could create an army of Doomslayers that bring destruction to you and the companies like you. You could do that, and you're fucking. So this thing, how far does it go? Right, that's where it goes. The 50 period moving average, you pass that test. Next time you get there, get fucked. We broke that test. Let's watch this 8 period moving average carry us up. Let's open and close significant series of candles subsequent to this downward test above this 50 period moving average, or let's not fucking go there at all because tomorrow's Friday and let's look at Max Payne in a minute and see where price action is most likely to go, because most people are mostly wrong, right? You're looking horizontal here, 382. That's another reason why you'd stop here briefly. You tested it once, 3 wicks above, 3 wicks below, did suggest a turnaround. There is a lot of things that make you think this is the place to enter here at 179 as opposed to right here at 183. So when it does go up, puts in a third wick like these previous two, as it did here like this previous two. Perhaps that was where some people went short on small moves or took that side of the trade on that period of time. Not even on spot, on different instruments. Or maybe people were going long through here and other people were de-risking. Other market participants with a different role from yourself might have been, and at that point it's natural for prices to come back. This is where the liquidity lies, at 170s, a high 170s, and then you go higher, right? And you go higher. Why? Because you've only just now completed the measured move represented by this yellow dotted line, right? This yellow dotted line, this is a rough version, as think of this test of the inside of this wedge. Yeah, something like that. The angles may be different, but whatever, right? It's that. I'll undo it so it just goes back without me doing anything. Yeah! That's the measured move from this wedge, the breakout. You've completed it and then some, right? It's a really good move. Didn't really break any Fibonacci level, though, as the nature of price action beforehand, though you did put in a very positive reason for this to be a significant turnaround point, a reversal area as opposed to a reaction. This itself is quite a violent return, though you did have 3 touches on the first time, and those previous up moves and subsequent to those tests weren't all that important. This last one was. These were accumulation lows. This itself is an accumulation low to come over here. Look at the momentum to the downside, significant enough. Horizontal retraces far enough on that picture, but you put it in context and it's just another higher low on an inevitable doom train. Rough. Barking with the dogs, bending with the irises. So this is another test of that area. Should you get another one, you'd be outside this upward sloping diagonal trend line. To go there, you'd have to then go beyond your 200 period moving average and beyond these horizontal supports for me to think that was significant and not a fake out that turned into a retest of this area. That itself would then be a bullish retest because you hadn't broken anything important, and you'd be back inside a triangle that likely, inevitably, in fact, will break up. If you ask me, that's what's going to happen, right? It could go wrong, could go the other way. It hasn't happened yet. So that's the way price action likely leads up to these targets, right? That's the 618, which is normally what would happen if you put in, like I said earlier, you put in divergence on a particular time frame, you test a bearish control zone or a bullish one and fail it, then you might put in, having recovered the 236 and tested it as you did, a move towards the 618. That's what you would expect to happen, or the 200 period moving average if it should be above you, but it's not, it's below you, so you expect the 618. So you would expect that retest. Having asked this question, you expect that area to be a successful test. You expect price action to move up to the 618. It's the golden pocket. Wham bam, 195 bucks and change. See you there. High five you. At that point, you're at the center line of this overall formation. Regardless of what happens beforehand, you've then had a very bullish recovery. You've tested above the 0.5. You may retest down to there or 382. Who gives a flying shit? You'll then live above that center line, testing this downward sloping supply. The extension on the moves, unlike to the downside, are way above the breakout zone. They're up here at the 1618 because this is what we're talking about in terms of reversals. This, right, a Gartley at the bottom of a downtrend, that, when you add up all the robust and all the probabilities within all of the different things we're talking about, none of them are as good as a Gartley. So let's see it, right? Let's fucking see it. And that full extension on that 1618, that's prices back up at 255 bucks. And that's what you're looking at from a measured move outside of this triangle. It takes you into an ascending triangle territory. Start testing those levels and measured moves above, right? That's how price action will likely go from the small time frames to the big time frames, but all done on one time frame. asking a question. Asking the question allows you to define a series of potential outcomes, which allows you to map price action, right? It's like putting the nappy on the baby, and you would think, oh, I'll just have to do that once, right? Well, you're not going to have a very happy child if you don't change its nappy very often. And price action is like that. And there's market participants in here shit in the bed every single fucking second of every single day. And it's on you to change the nappies. So anyway, right, you brought a break for it. And fucking that's your GME TA. Boom. And answered that question from Sal, I think. What's the next one? ZBT. Is that right? Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. No. ZBT. Zebit. Right, it must be Zebit, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. It's the packety. I've written that and I don't know what it means. It's the packety. Is that correct? If so, let's look at it. If it's something else, look at something else. ZBT, and it can't be this, can it? Let's see, you said it's crap. Well, that looks pretty crap. Maybe it's this. Oh, fuck, this is shit. Must be this. What's everybody saying? Somebody saying something. Here's my chat box here. Oh, I'm so far behind. Shit, I've missed a message. I missed a donation message. Oh no, it was finally able to watch live. You got it. Tradespotting, you're the best. Thanks. You're welcome, Sal. Rocky's the best. Apes have life partners, families, kids, and so on. Keep it together. Keep it together. Good advice. Keep it together. Tradespotting, yeah. That's the one. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, cool. And the question was, is it shit? Yep, shit. It's got a 200 period moving average on the weekly time frame, just. So it's not been around that long. We can say it had an interesting trading range for all of its lifetime until such times as it broke it. And then, holy shit. I mean, there's lots of reasons why this trend might turn around at some stage soon, right? That's if it, well, let's see. I've got this on. I may as well put it. How would I do this? Start with it like that. Possibly. So something might happen soon. An inflection point might come soon, right? So nobody needs to jump off any bridges or nothing yet. So try telling that to price action. Am I right? Anyway, right. So fuck off, TV, right? You've gone beyond the 1618. At that point, there was obviously some interest. And we can draw on another horizontal level here. I mean, it's hard to make a case for it above here at the minute. We've only gone to the weekly, so let's go down here and see what's going on, right? So the trend, let's go back to that weekly trend. Let's talk about it as it's here. Is on the weekly time frame has reached historic strengths and has been a historic victory for the DI minus, right? The bad guys are winning, I suppose, right? Right, though that is a false concept, and there is no such thing as good or bad in this sense, right? We're just talking about a stock's trend here, no people in particular. And it's quite a clean chart from quite a new asset. So that's to speak to any manipulation or whatever. It's not this point of this segment. It goes to Dan, 499. Just a 499 to sustain me through these porridge wars. Thank you, Dan. I'll use it to fight back against the powers that be. I'll put it to more porridge. Maybe one day I'll be able to enjoy cornflakes like this, the royalty among us, right? So there's hard to make a case for this, right? Also, your momentum's not giving you anything up, but your RSI is not at its lowest potential. Your ADX is at an area where it might likely turn around, though your DI minus has still got a tiny touch extra to go on it, and perhaps potentially could go even further. And so there's nothing at this time frame that says anything other than perhaps 0.465 slash 70, 0.470, yeah, and then 0.425, right? There's your two areas. And I suppose if you had the stomach for it, there's an entry and there's a stop, or there's an entry and, you know, manage it manually with a stop based on your own things and lower time frames. But that's what I'd look at from that. I wouldn't try it further, right? That would be a lunatic to do that. 3 days, 50 period moving average there, well below it. Wouldn't expect a test of it anytime soon. I mean, what? That's like, there's a Fibonacci move in progress, but you can't say by any means that it's stopped. Right? You'd have to get down to these entries. And you couldn't take this move yet. And this Fibonacci is like speculative, so it's just a waste of time, right? It's a total waste of time. You'd know if you put in any idea that you might turn around there, and we can look at that on a different time frame if it becomes relevant, but it isn't. That was 3 days, so it wasn't. Anyway, down to the two, just straight up on the daily 8 period moving average below you. Above you, you're below it. You're below the 50, which is below the 200 since 200's been born. You have got a degree of bullish divergence if this is the low, but there's nothing to speak to that yet. You have momentum weakening to the downside, so this may then start to turn around. You have a negative slope on DI minus, and potentially that's a shitty ADX, so it hasn't changed its own strength since we've been down. In fact, it's been going up and trend has been going down, but we have put in higher highs on the DI minus as that's happened, so you can't speak to divergence, but you could say it's a weakening, and then you could potentially have that weakening as divergence on the RSI on the daily time frame. Potentially, there's absolutely nothing looking left to go and stop you from falling further. This does look like a piece of shit. So I would still be like, nah, not interested in trading it from there. No point in 12 hour. 4 hour below the 8 period moving average. You're stuck in your bearish control zone. You've got a negative slope on the DI positive, but that's because it reached like as high as it's ever likely to ever fucking go in the history of humankind. And then down here, you've got a positive slope on the ADX, so it's increasing in its trend strength that you were previously in is increasing as it has been doing, and it looks like it's doing again. And so what if you've got a tiny negative slope on the DI minus? You had a negative slope to fuck here, and pricing fell off a fucking cliff. You had a negative slope here, price action fell off a fucking cliff you didn't even know was there. Negative slopes on all these moves, price action fell again, further down this fucking cliff that never fucking ends at the minute. And that, why doesn't it just happen again? You know, like, fucking get the fuck away from this thing, right? For 1 hour, it's total bollocks, even on the smaller time frames. So that's it failing into the pit of doom that we just talked about there. Like, no man's land, shouldn't even be here, or what the fuck are you doing here, right? This is the depth of the ocean we never really even managed to get to, right? The sort of shit that grows down here nobody knows about. But for somehow, thank God, it seems like they must somehow enjoy eating plastic. Whether or not they enjoy it, I don't know, but they're definitely doing it. And in here shows price action, like, yum, yum, plastic, yum. No, right? The only thing you're getting here is like already, like, it's like, right, I'm going to stop with stupid analogies. Anyway, you've tried to get out of the pit of doom into the absolute shithole of the worst place ever in terms of bearish control. And you have managed it, but you're still below your moving average. So perhaps it does turn around, but it wouldn't be a sensible person trading it making that happen. It would have to be some arresting of price action from a large account, from an insider, or a news-based catalyst from somebody likely again inside, maybe your mate. Then down to the 30 minutes, stick on to auto, so we've got more price action. This is a picture of something that you couldn't quite say is in perfect health. There's RSI again falling off the screen. It's so bad. It's desperate to make it back up here, but it's not managing it. Price action, we can bear in mind that this could even go back in here and you'd be in the bearish control zone. So the bears would be in control and they could still push the price down to fucking wherever they feel like. Likely this area is where they feel like. Saran Rap Stereo. What did you just say? Where are we at? Ba-ba-da-bum. Boom. What did it say? Feckin' missed it when it was on screen. Now I don't see it in the chat box. Does somebody want to tell me what that said? Because that'll be an interesting one. It also came by Bing Bong, so it'll be a donation one. Feck. Who was Sarah Ristano? Ristanian. It sounds like Sarah Rapinino. No idea who that is. So thank you so much. That's appreciated. If it was a question and I freaking missed it. Did somebody see it? The fuck is that? What were we talking about anyway? This thing looks shit, yeah. What? So there's that. What's the other thing we're going to do? BBIG. Boom. What did you ask me about it? I've not got anything written down about it. Not anything written down about it. It's at 8:36. Well, it was at 8:36. Post market is at 8.05. Is that significant? No. So extension like this, you're asking yourself, is that it petered out after this previous move? Your RSI is divergent between these two peaks. Odie super chatted. Shit, it just disappeared just before I read it. Is it going to come up on the screen? Oh, all of them are coming up. Some people ask, Odie, some people ask for bailouts from government, then try to fly themselves to space. The fucking apropos of nothing. If you have time, could you take a look at space? Yeah, no problem. No problem, mate. Space. The Ghost of Dan. Just noticed that shirt. You look like a 14-year-old that time travelled to the 60s and snuck in a swingers party. I like it. Thanks. Yes. Yeah, thanks. I look like a teenager. Nice. I like that part. Time travelling. Gotcha. And then a swingers party. Cool. All things I've got quite a lot of experience about. Maybe I'll tell you about the swingers parties I've been to when we hit like 10,000 concurrent viewers. It's about that level of story. Because that'll be it, right? That'll be it, me afterwards. Never explain again. What were we talking about there? We were going to look at space later after we've done BBIG, which is here. And that looks dangerous. It's divergent here, right? This is this high. You can test the divergence by saying, right, well, it's an uptrend, right? So the hidden divergence would be on the bottom side of it, and the bearish divergence would be on the top side of it, and here's the top side of it, and they're both measuring these moves within an appropriate look back period. These are relative to each other, easy to compare and appropriate. You look back and you'd say, this high was higher here, right? Subsequently, this high higher than this previous one, lower on the RSI. Price action came back, tested something, right? Tested some area horizontal at this point was your previous high, so that's your breakout zone also here, and is the retest previously. So 1, 2, 3 times. It's significant now. Price action goes on. The RSI at that point recovered above the center line, so hey, maybe it's still bullish despite that divergence. Maybe we've burnt it off with this retrace. Maybe that's enough and we continue to the top side, which ultimately is what happened. And you put in another high, having come straight from below your center line and gone through the bullish control zone without any test of it and without any test of it on price action, makes me think that's unusual and subsequently might likely be tested. Then I'd look left and I'd say, well, these peaks on the RSI between this price action peaks here, right? Price action is way higher and it's way lower on RSI. So that's bearishly divergent. So that's very bad. And I'd expect another test at this point. Whatever it was that saved you here, it just led to more bearishness. Despite price action going up, Is it going to be what holds you? Unlikely. It's more likely you're looking at something like the 200 period moving average and it's down at $6. So is that what happens to BBIG? Doing this all from a 30-minute time frame. Are we going to be like that? Are we going to be like that, Jimmy? On the MACD, you can see you've got real positive move there. You've got a positive buy signal just as you went through the 200 period moving average. You got that proper buy signal in the 30 minutes, at which point you can expect an extension of your move. So there, congratulations, that all was likely to happen. Also, you recovered beyond this. What is this? 236. Alright, so you held your 236 here. This Fibonacci is no longer valid when you went through that area. That does speak to very positive move. You'd want to hold that on significant time frames, though. It is above this level of horizontal resistance, so interesting. It could drop a line there, but I can't be bothered, right? Instead, I'm going to go up to those time frames and look at them. At your 4 hour, you could just have wicked. You just wicked so much beforehand, quick, and then boom, through it. And then what is that? And then in terms of closes, it's quite significant actually. Higher than that, that'll be better than 786. That's good. Retrace afterwards. 4 hour, not significant, but still don't trust it. This downtrend, yeah, what is this? This is a bear flag, isn't it? This is a bear flag, and it's like Rocky was saying about AMC today. If you haven't tuned into Rocky's AMC video today, go back and watch it, right? It's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant. He talks about this concept of bear flags and how can you define them, and in a similar way to talking about the candlestick patterns earlier, he's helping people understand like the concept of what comes next based on what's going on at the minute and how what that might potentially be. So let's understand the nature of what we're being told from this formations, right? And this looks like it's a bearishly divergent move which has reached above certain levels and could threaten to go higher, but that threat is weak as shit if you ask me. You're looking at it and seeing, is it a bull flag, is it a bear flag, what's coming next on price action here? Goes to Dan. I love swingers parties filled with meth and twinks, and will tell all for only one concurrent viewer. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think you're allowed to talk about hard drugs on YouTube. And if I was to do that, I'd say I'm not a fan of ones that are used to exploit people. Even at swingers parties, what ones are you going to? I went to really classy establishments. Anyway, and less about that and more conversations later, right? So, now I say that and I give the wrong impression too because they weren't always quite like that, right? So 236, and you're looking for price action to stay above 736. If it falls below it, maybe there is counterintuitively continuation to the top side. If it stays above it and price action continues to range with slightly higher highs and no drops, doesn't drop any lower than the 236 of this move, which maybe even isn't necessarily here, right? That might not even be the real. So this move here is maybe your bull flag, in which case, because it's from a smaller distance and a higher starting point, your 236 isn't as far away, and you've touched it and gone back above it. No body close below the 236. And when that keeps happening on this move here, it could easily be like a negative flag here and price action turns back down again. Or is it a bull flag and price action like does persist at certain areas and puts in like, you know, lower highs, lower lows, and then goes on again? We'll see, right? That's what you're looking to. And does that look like a wedge? Does it look like a channel that slopes upward? What happens here? You know, the biggest part of this move is within this. It's already happened here, right? Even if it then goes back to this big high over here, which is a dollar to value, right? Significant difference, but the percentage of the move, most of it's happened. The risk below you is quite far away. Like it's this 236 of this ultimate move, which you've not tested since you've gone through it, and you likely do. That comes in at the 618 of this most recent Fibonacci from your low high to your high here. It's likely you test that should you break the 236. I'd pay attention there, because if you do break below $8 again and you're at 805 in post market, so you can't even get out now, that's the next stop, and that's a significant percentage move away, and that's just a test. At that point there's stop losses all over the place, and if stuff goes against you, this is a failure. And then a lower high in context, so you know you got to pay that attention to that. Ding bong, rock out. Hello, my name is Rock Out, and I am a trade spotting aholic. A whole Tezos, yes. And then it smashed all those other puny donations out of the jar. Boom. Rocky Outcrop, hello Rocky Outcrop, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. It's very honest of you to be so open. There's 158 people here. Excellent. So we've talked about BBIG. You've got some idea of what's going on there, how to manage your position, what might be getting worse, what price action's been up to, how it looks a little bit suspicious to me. This is a very strong move. Most of it's already happened. If you're looking to get in, now's not the time. If you're asking what's up, it's this 236 and it's this 236 and then at this 618 and then what happens at those areas and dropping below $8 not good, dropping below 720 really bad. $50-period moving average is above the 200. Your long-term trend is up. Everything looks okay. You've made it into the bullish control zone. Though I'd say that could potentially be a failure coming up here. 4-hour time frame, putting it in context, everything's okay. It's just it had such a bearish high there. Worse than it's ever been through before. And its retrace hasn't been as much as it has been before. Like this was a very significant retrace all the way back to like the 886. This retrace from this low, that was all the way back to the 786. That's 886 from here. Like, I mean, I could draw it and I'll just draw it. 886. And then here you've not even gone where? Just touched the 0.5 and then you've gone back up above 382 and touched 236. This is the area it's got to get above. You needed to get above 837, open and close 837, 4 hours, daily candles. You got close to there. This looks like a short-term top and it'll test lower. It may be that the trend continues to the top side, but this thing has a nature of testing much deeper retraces that in a continuation of the trend. It's very volatile and you may likely see some more of that. RSI says that a failure might be coming in. You've got a touch of significant questions are going to be asked by Rocky Outcrop DMI. You can also see a flash here that's come in. Price action has gone back and covered that distance. And now what happens? Does it just fail? Interesting. Trend strong there. Nothing to speak about turning around yet. Passive 4 hour, 1 hour. Potentially turning around soon. Seems divergent even within this move. 30-minute, you had your buy, your 200 move, that extension there. Horizontal tests failed. It's not something in it right now, but that's the TA. It'll help hopefully if you've been in it, and hopefully that's what it was for, right? So that's that space. And I'm getting a sore head, so I'm not going to keep doing loads of these. Space. Did it. I've got to do AMC yet. Fuck. Wow. So you've tested your 0.5 a number of times and then you've broken it with a gap. There's a significant horizontal. Let's go back up to the time frame, see what that means. Oh, my tea. You know, I could say to you guys, oh, do this, do that, or please do this for me. Please do the next thing, you know, and some people get off put by the fact that I'd ask. Other people won't do it unless they're reminded. And I'd be like, well, what's the answer? And the answer is I just have a cup of tea. I don't need to ask you guys. I just need to have a cup of tea, don't I, guys? That's all we need. Just Jamie having a cup of tea. This is the point. Jamie has a cup of tea. Wow, it tastes so good. You know, it could be anything in this glass. It might not even be tea. It might just be saying that. In fact, there might not be anything in it. This might be just me drinking all of the likes that you click. Wow. Something extra special about drinking likes live. What are we looking at? Bump, bump, bump. Space. So this is what happens when you try to identify space. Best is authentication. You didn't do me any disservice, authentication. Didn't help me, mind you. Oh, look at that. What did we say about this? When was that? 17th of May. Were we trading it back then? What were we thinking? No, we said don't trade it back then. Wait for a move down to this level again. And then get a move up to here. Is that what we said? Or did we say this trade from back there? Is it open or not? Wobble, wobble, wobble. Wobble, 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 wobble. What did that say? I only ask that you tolerate me. I welcome you. What are you talking about? I'm Al, Jimmy. You're the greatest. Thank you very much. Guitar outside. You, my friend, are the biggest fucking loser. Shadow of Lipton. It's Lipton. Nice. It's Lipton. Is it? I don't know. I think it's also tea. Why would you say that? Why would you say any of that shit? I'm drinking the unlike buttons. You click the like button and you donate and it fills up the jar and then I drink out of it. So look at this. You're possibly in a channel. This is a buy zone, right? It is on the long-term time frames, the weekly. This is an area where people will be buying it. It's a 50%, so it would be likely continuation of the trend from this point onwards. But when you look to your previous high up here and you look at the RSI, you can see, well, it looked like it was rolling over, not the RSI-based part of it, but it was all, over this look-back period on this time frame. It's relevant to say it. This was a divergent second high. Second one was a failure. It was in a distribution point, right? This was a distribution high. See on the RSI, it failed at this area, which was what we were speaking about doing on some other asset we just came from, talking about how it doesn't have to reach, the top or the bottom in the zone if it fails, and it keeps failing, despite the fact price action has gone up again and looks dramatically strong. It's actually a piece of shit and it's going to fuck off, right? Which is what this has done. And it's made it all the way back to having lost 50% of its value from its all-time high. This space, right? Space, you thought it was worth nothing. Well, now it's worth less than half of that. So that's the buy zone, right? Dow theory, 33%, 50%, 66%. Those are various retracements. He would suggest that a 50% one, that's bullish retracement. It's going to lead to a continuation of the previous trend. And Dow would tell you that potentially then it looks like it might go in and put in a higher high. And if it does, that'll be somewhere around $100. Congratulations if it does that and you're long. If it was me trading it, I'd want to say, well, fuck you and your silly channel. I'm getting tired now, haven't I, Jimmy? This isn't actually what's going on, only it was to identify that there might be a drop, and this is where price action comes in again. And that's likely what I was thinking at the time that I drew this, and price action likely had to fall to some degree here. Below the 50 period moving average, you're not at the 200 yet. A test of that would also be a test of the 618, having fallen through the 236 and put in divergent highs. You'd expect a test of one of the two, even if it is a weekly time frame. Let's see what happens. Does the trend persist even with the touch down there? It does. It would constitute a higher low, even if the wick went down as far as 1409. So that's where your stop goes down. Below that, your entry goes here. You're still waiting for a long on space. And it would be the same one you looked for on this move. And maybe that's why it's there. Maybe it's why because it's going to move coming up. But either way, it's patience. Don't enter at these sort of zones. Unless you really want to and you like this thing, you've got a reason on smaller time frames, go for it. I'm not giving you financial advice. Don't say that doesn't to me. This is a buy zone. It's like I wouldn't enter it here. I just like more chocolate and biscuit, because if it did drop down here, more likely and less of an ask for you to get the same return as it going up to the previous highs is it to fuck off down here and then just have to, as nearly all things do, test that breakdown zone. In which case you've got the same type of percentage move, and it's way much more likely that that would happen subsequent to a drop than from here us going to the all-time highs. Though if you do go, this is a place to enter. You buy a support, not a resistance. Is this support or resistance, right? So have we broken it is what I'm asking. 3-day, 0.5, still down there at 21 something. Post-market, you have dropped below it. but your body closing the daily knot and you're still on this upwards looking demand line. Could be the third touch of it. Are you outside of it? Your 200 period moving average on the 3-day time frame's also down here as well as the 0.5. This likely does bounce here and is a buy zone at this point. And maybe this trade is from this entry here, at which point you had the whole thing and some on the top of it. And likely that, maybe that is what happened at 618. Maybe you're not looking for that much of a retrace at this point. Having put in that high and not been divergent, dropped down, bounced off the bearish control zone. This is the question you're asking yourself here. And if we've written it on the charts, and we really are asking ourselves it here. This, whenever I looked at it before, does it recover its own moving average? Not yet. It's still failing there, and it's at a failure zone. Failed center line. Even if it tests up to that, the horizontal would only really be a continuation of this failure as represented by this demand line, which is now a supply line. People will be scared. This is the next entry on this. Should it drop down, it'll be a test of this bearish control zone. Maybe it'll be some sort of horizontal here too. You could draw between these lines and say, came in somewhere around there on the next low. That was a fake out low from this channel, which itself isn't real. It was actually like there you go. That's another reason why that's likely to happen. Oh my god, I guess that's good value around here. Right, what's next? This is incredible. This is incredible value. Oh my goodness, this is incredible value. That's it. AMC next. Oh yeah. Fucking flying. Da, 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 da. 25 minutes to midnight. We've made it before the day ends with the AMCs. Are we on the AMCs? You've got your 3 lower low troughs. This is accumulation. You've got your price action up here. Very, very positive. So, right, the overall question with AMC, right? Yeah, it's completed this move. It's the part of this harmonic pattern, right? This is a bat. Rocky's outlined this, why it might happen. If you don't know why, watch his AMC TA. I don't even have to do AMC TA. Rocky AMC TA is just incredible, right? It's incredible. And I say that knowing that Rocky does incredible shit all the time. Even then, it's still incredible, right? So you should watch it if you've not watched it. Many of you have, right? So you want my take on things, okay? It's the same as this. You're looking for that D point. You're not trading it for that. If you're a harmonic trader, you're waiting for there, and at that point you're looking for a retrace, and the question comes in. This would be my take on AMC, right? It's the same as Rockies. It's going to go up to $74, $72, right? It's going to go to $72. At that point, it may go on to $77, right? And there you have to ask yourself a question. Are you going to hold on to AMC? And I'm not saying are you going to hold on to AMC to change the world, because I don't know if that's possible with AMC anyway. I'm saying there'll be a question asked at $72, $77 when it returns to its all-time previous high. If it gets beyond there, then there could be continuation, right? 92, 97, 107, 137, give or take $2. We've been saying it for ages. We've been saying it since it was like $5 that could happen. But there has now been something put on the charts by market participants who trade AMC and paper hand the shit out of it. And they say that this is potentially what's going to happen. This bearish bat pattern. It has high reliability if you're trading it. And it will be a very, very high interest to people who are going short or are taking profits. And that will affect the overall picture of this football game, this game you're playing, not football, this game, your chess game, whatever. Is how other people handle this move. How do they handle it? And what I mean is, do they buy it? Do like the big proponents of AMC and who say, I'm going to buy that. Like, I would buy the shit out of GME if it opens and closes weeklies at 343. I would fucking buy the shit out of it. Right? Right? Is that what the big AMC YouTubers do when AMC hits the full extension up at this D at around $82? Do they buy the shit out of it? And I don't mean like that short guy Graham, who told all GME holders were paper hands and that AMC was the play, and told all of his millions and millions of followers to buy it for the first time ever at $72. Not that idiot, right? I mean, like, the people who talk about technical analysis, who know when it gets here and don't, then everybody share with Trey and Matt and everybody else that talks about AMC this TA and this question. Ask them, are they going to buy AMC when it gets to $83? Are they going to wait and see it up there for a week, open and close, and buy it? Are they? Like I would with GME at 343. Are they going to do that? You know, that's the question, because that's the area for it. GME's got a different pattern on it. It's got through a different series of events, and so the question for it is 343. And well, maybe they say to your the response quite fairly might be, well, that I think those levels aren't equivalent. I'd say they are, but like we could have that conversation. But ask these people, ask them, are they going to be buying it there? And if you hold it and you want to change the world with AMC, you're going to need them to be doing the same thing. So ask them, right? That's your question for them. And I'd ask them if they want to talk, but nobody gets back to me. Nor should they necessarily, right? They're perfectly entitled to tell me to fuck off if they want to, right? So anyway, here's your lows, here's your areas that you're looking for it to go through. Also, it seems to be in a pennant. Is this a bull flag? Is it a bear flag? Well, it's dropped back down below certain areas, come back and put in higher lows. It's like a little bit different from other flags. It's not typical. Is it a channel that failed? Quite possibly. Then the next test at this stage would be having come in, put in a breakout to the bottom, recovered, tested the top area, put in a higher low. Next question is, do you test this previous high? It's like the B point here. It's the 618 retrace. We've talked a lot this evening. It's at $50, right? So $50, that's what you're looking to. In the meantime, we talked about how, and we wanted people to say, well, why would anyone put what you have to say across to Trey and Matt? Well, it's because I said when it was here, it was going to go up to 41.10 to 41.44. It went up to 41.14, 41.10. Whatever it was, right? Went 10, right? Went to the fucking cent. Look, there's the lines. I drew the fucking lines on everything. And you can go back and look at this stuff and prove that what I said is true, right? What most people would say is impossible. You can go back to yesterday's video and watch me talk about this, and I now see it, right? And that, so whatever. Right, so like my question is valid to Trey. Let's consider it my question, putting it now. Trey, Matt, what are you doing at that price when it gets there? That's where it's going, by the way. And when it gets there, what are you going to do? That's Jamie Curran, GME, Tradespotting's question to the big ones. What are you going to do, Lou? You know, if you bought it all and you're not buying any more and you're relying on market dynamics at that price to take it higher, because that's not going to work. So what are you going to do, Lou? You're buying it. You said it's not a movement. What are you doing, Trey? Are you telling people that you're buying it? Matt, are you going to tell people now you'll buy in advance? What is it? What's happening? Are you going to just play it by ear? And as such, is AMC going to change the world? Because GME potentially could, you know. And I'm sure if people are following along, and Trey and Matt are both advocates for GME and AMC, they might want to say which they think is better at that point. And I know both of them will have said at certain points in the past, but what are they going to say is better at that point, at $83 for AMC? And what are they going to say at that point? And what are they going to say in advance so that it's all ethical, not because I'm putting them on the spot, right? No one fucking listens to me anyway, and they'll ignore me, so, you know, whatever. Maybe it's just something for us to look back on. But I like them, and they put in a lot of work, so I would say that that's, like, asking with all due respect. There are also areas it can go to, right? And I expect, like I've said, 97, 107, 137, and the extensions here are all laid out. But the question is, does that happen now? Or does that happen after some sort of bad news when you get to your previous peak and there's a retrace? What happens with AMC? Can't say yet. The charts don't tell you yet, right? They don't. So that's the next question. Rocky's outlined it. So the truth is, go and look at his stuff, because his brilliant TA today on it will tell you all the answers you need to know. Ba-boom! And somebody asked me about, and before I went live, about MTTR. Have I got it on my charts? Nope. And the question was, Jamie, on the daily, there's a cup and handle question mark. On the daily, there's a cup and handle. Yeah, there you go. Right, this was an accumulation low here, fair enough. That's still not neat, but it'll do. And you recovered your 50 period moving average. You went on through this Fibonacci, you reached 786, you even broke beyond it, but not for significant amounts of times. Not an open and close open anyway. So you didn't get the third one at that point. You were below it, and then you had your drop. So you didn't manage to completely break that trend, nor did you manage to break it here. If you go up again here and fail to go higher, that'll be a distribution. Already does look like distribution. Period of time that this cup was asterisk. ADTN, if you get it right. Oh, fuck yeah, I was supposed to do that because I said I'd do it earlier. You betcha I will do, mate. ADTN, let me write it down because I will actually just forget. It's about to disappear there. ADTN. Thanks for the donation. I should have seen your name. I would have remembered. MTTR, how long's it been in this cup? 19th of February, October, right? That's quite a long time. Quite a long time, right? So this may not conform to the rest of what cup and handles do. Subsequent to it reaching the top, you'd expect a test of the 50% area. You got it. That was also a test of the 50 period moving average. At that point, you're thinking, is the measured move going to happen? The measured move, this line here, is this low to this high. Bear in mind, it's a logarithmic chart, so this line will change size. I drop it up here at the breakout zone, and it comes up to a 1414 extension of this previous Fibonacci. So very commonly ends up at the 1272 or the 168, though, of these cup and handles. So there's your potential measured move, and it's like huge zones above. Then you see descending wedge that took it down, and then it did the measured move from the descending wedge, right? So yeah, I would like, this is what happens. Often this will be a shitty wedges go like this, right? Shitty wedges go like this. They do break out, and they all looks good now. Bear with me, it's a little bit rough. They break out the measured move from that it did. You're lock that fib, shouldn't I? Where's the lock button? You told me about this. Now where is it? I don't see it immediately. Right, so you got that move there. Let's just move it. Tired as it is, Jamie. Don't add new things in. The measured move from the breakout zone, yeah, it completed it. And so, like, that may be a turnaround, but what you would actually want to look to is to say within this high to this low, there it is here, drag it across to the right so you can see where price action is relative to it, and zoom in a little bit. You're above the 236, you haven't dropped below there yet. Let's see how that continues on. It may well be a buy. That's a bullish wick. If it turns around here, then it'll look good. But you ask me, will it retrace? We'll go further in the retracement. I'm not sure because I've taken notes of your message. But before that, there was the flash on the DMI. And where was the flash on the DMI? Back here. This is the DMI flash I've got. I'm on, what, extended hours? What am I on? Adjusted for nothing changed there on the daily time frame log. I've not got the flash, and the previous flash has been completed, and that was the cut part of it. To complete the flash, or go on and complete the cup and handle breakout move. So if the flash, if you're saying, means that it flashed here and price action haven't moved since, I think it has, having been below and come back up again here and then being above it, but I'm not sure how you're measuring that one. But if you see this video and you want to ask that question again, because I know you're not able to watch the live ones, and so you're not able to ask during the live one, so that's why you sent the message on Twitter. And so I promised you I'd answer it, and I wanted to ask your question properly. I need you to repeat it with this context of this TA and looking at it. And I'd say this looks like a reasonable good trip measured move. It's potentially happening here. You've had the retrace, you've had the test, you've had your 236 afterwards. It's a horizontal retest of the breakout candle from the wedge, potentially. All of that seems to fit together. There are reasons to enter and to be looking at it, where the entry and where the move is. Hopefully you got in somewhere around here. The measured moves up there, I'm not 100% sure about whether it'll work. You'll have to look to your previous high here and see what price action does. It's interesting to see how it performs at this area where it's tested a number of times and hasn't managed to go beyond. And then you could look at this and say maybe it does need to test slightly lower again. There is no real gap there, but if there is, which I can't see because I can't zoom in, I'm not zooming in because I'm going to look at the other one now, and that is ADTN. Don't have this on the charts. ADTran. It's nearly a good name. ADTran. Electronic technology. Well, okay. Surprise. Our technology is electronic. That's the great USP. So there's a gap here. There's a gap. There's a gap. That's a very interesting gap. The time that gap happened, you fell out of the bearish control zone, went straight through the center line. Some sort of bad news event, was it? And straight through the bearish control zone, and then continued into the bearish control zone. At that point, the RSI doesn't need to keep falling quite as dramatically. The bears are in control and they're continuing down, but price action fucking went dramatically down. 200 tested it below it, significant test afterwards, bullish divergence on the bottom side there. Bullish divergence, price action came back up, tested 200, recovered. Congratulations, that looks good from that sense. Price action moving towards the center line. It's got a lot of work to do yet in terms of its relative strength. You have got a positive sign on the RSI as on the MACD cross here, as price action was at the 200 period. So that might be good from a daily time frame. Your weakening trend of the downtrend's weakening at this point since 27th of September. That downtrend, though it continued in part and you haven't gone back above any levels, that trend has weakened. The divergence is now turned into a positive trend on the RSI. The DI minus has dropped off on our Rocky Outcrops DMI. That's the RSI rate, did I see that right? And this DMI. Positive trend perhaps coming up. Rick and Morty lips doesn't look necessarily good yet. Dodgy. You're on the daily time frame. This is not a significant enough horizontal level, if you ask me. Like, what the fuck are we going on that low there? And this breakout, like, that's shit, because this is more important and we can't get above it. Below it, that would be more important with, like, debatably some of this is part of it, all the lows of that and the breakout here. And then none of that's important compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And that's the daily time frame. What about that, say, on the weekly? We look at horizontals. And it's even worse now because you've got all this price action on. So that was the positive entry point across every indicator. That was a very good entry. Covered the 200, had the golden cross, test the 50. Does it come lower and test 13.87? That's the question you're asking. Haven't seen this cross on a weekly time frame. 3-day. Okay. There is some distribution here. Trend change straight afterward. Prices dropped off. Maybe not a news event, but there was distribution there. Price action below the center line, below the 50 period, having put in a divergent high. And on the weekly time frame, you're asking yourself, is it going to test this 200 period moving average because there was a golden cross, and here you're looking at the 3-day time frame saying you still haven't truly tested this cross, though you might not have needed to because price action was at it when the cross happened. It still then failed with a divergent high and then suggests a 200 period necessary. That's again saying that level will be interesting on the daily time frame. Skip the 2-day. You're at that 200, so you've met the first one. You're answering your first questions and recovering, but you haven't got through the center line yet, so I wouldn't trade it here. If I was, I'd be looking to go just to $20, so that'd be stupid, and your downside on it looking left is going to 1660 nearly definitely, going to 1544 probably, going to 13 likely. That'd be a little bit out of place for an entry, though. At that point, you'd say, what's happening here? You know, is this rolling over? Because relative to those other areas, when you see them on the bigger time frames and that, this is just reaching this high again. You know, I didn't like that. This is just reaching these highs again, which is also those lows failing at that point. And we dropped, where was that gap? Was there not a gap on this? That top line here was where the gap is. Is it on some time frame somewhere? Is it? I've only got on the moving averages. My price action is just not here, is it not? How did I manage to do that? Which one is it? Appearance. Likely it would be appearance, though it isn't. So that was it for another episode of Where Did You Come From? Where Did You Go? What Are You Up To Next? Price action, yo, with GME from Tradespotting. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, all the donations, all the requests, all the time you spent with me. If you hit like, that's very much appreciated. I desperately appreciate all of you and every second you spend here and choosing to tune in with me when you could be anywhere and you chose to be here is appreciated. Thanks. Is it midnight yet? No, 4 more minutes. Well, I'm going to let you meet tomorrow on your own, and I'll leave you here at the gate, but I'll pick you up tomorrow when you're ready to go to school. No, Rocky's getting you tomorrow. You'll hear with you at the gate, front door. Make sure your packed lunch is ready, and join Rocky, www.youtube.com/RockyOutcrop, and he'll take you to school, and then I'll pick you up at the end of it. And you can tell me what happened, and I'll debrief you. No, chat to you about your homework and stuff. Okay, excellent. Lots of love. Night, everybody. Hit the like button. Price action disappeared. Bing. See, you can take away all sorts of shit without even knowing about it. So, count your blessings. Count your blessings.